so what we're looking at here too, the change from the previous real salary, I believe Mr. D'Angelo says that here, this year might be the worst year he's ever seen, but according to your scale for the H-1 members, in terms of wages, it looks like between 2003 and 2004 was one of the worst years they've ever seen.
In terms of the loss of salary in those years, yes.
Actually, it looks like 2005.
Very well.
And 8.
Please proceed.
All right. The next page, page 2, is a graph of that information. The red line is the CPI, and the blue line is the 25-year average salary. And note spatially, the difference between the red line and the blue line, that area is pay lost to inflation. Okay, the next page, now I'll start on the comparables. And these are the states that I'm using: Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Michigan, Illinois, and Ohio.
Why did you choose those states?
These are the large states in the northeast quadrant of the country. They all have collective bargaining, and or at least they did. And
they're not just large land mass, but they're large in terms of population. They're similar in population, similar in duties for state correctional officers.
Well, the correctional officer job descriptions in all of these states are similar to Pennsylvania. There's no substantial difference in any of the states. And when I say large, I mean population size. And this shows when their fiscal years occur and when their the contracts that they're currently working under began and expired. And this is something of an issue because contracts that may have been settled 5 years ago might have a different pay increase for this year than one that was just settled last year. So I wanted you to be aware of when these were settled. And for the most part, they're all settled after the recession that we are currently falling out of began. So these are all for the most part, reflect the economic situation that we're in.
So Massachusetts and New York, with that in 09, they haven't renewed, I think.
Massachusetts, they had an agreement, and then their legislature declined to fund it, so they're back to bargaining again. And New York is in arbitration right now. And they don't expect to be finished in time to help you all at all. But they're preparing negotiations or arbitration. All right, page 4. This goes back to fiscal year 2004. This is the first year of my analysis. The year that began July of 2003, the same as my first table. And this shows the salary plus longevity for each of these correctional officer departments in each of the comparable states. As I described before, starting with the first year of service, second year of service, and so forth. So these reflect the pay progressions and the longevities in place for each of these departments. After the 6 comparable departments, you'll see the median. That's the midpoint of each row. So the median in the first row, 32,142, is the median earnings in year 1 in those 6 departments. Compared to Pennsylvania, it's a difference of 11%. That is, Pennsylvania is behind by 11.6%.
So your data actually shows we started well behind you.
In 2004, the correctional officers in Pennsylvania were 11.6% below the median of the others. And in the first few years of service, you'll see that actually gets worse before it starts getting better. So what's really happening is the first pay steps, the first, say, 8 or 9 pay steps, leave the correctional officers far behind the competition. And then once they reach their top pay and begin getting the longevities, then they begin to catch up and eventually go ahead.
In terms of the life of a wage earner at the PSCOA, what does that mean in terms of the total value of their work?
Well, the total value, if you look at the bottom couple of rows, the 20-year average is an average deficit of 2.6%, and the 25-year average is a deficit of 0.5%. And Pennsylvania ranked 4 out of the 7 at that point. But one difference with the deficit, big deficit so early in the career, that really it's a difficult time for young correctional officers who've been hired and are trying to get established, buy a house and do all that sort of thing. They're really paid quite a bit lower than in the other states at that point in their career.
Well, if they make it up later on, or at least come within 2.5 points during the 20th year, why would you look at the whole 20 to 25-year career?
Well, it's a bigger picture than just looking at 1 year or another year. It's a picture of what the entire career provides. And in addition to just the total numbers and the averages, it shows you how the career is distributed over time. And here, they end well, relatively well, which is a useful thing for people, by the time their kids are getting ready to leave the house, and then they're doing much better than early in the career. But early on, they really don't do nearly as well as the other states.
This next graph, is this just a graphical representation of the previous exhibit?
It is. This is a bar graph that shows the 20 and the 25-year averages. The lighter blue line is the 25-year, and the darker is the 24. And the median is right next to Pennsylvania. You see Pennsylvania is just right around the median at the 25-year period and more below it at the 20-year period. And I would point out, so you see New Jersey is quite high and Ohio is quite low in this graph, but both of those wash out in the median. One's the high, one's the low, those vanish. And the median takes in Illinois, Michigan, and New York typically. Okay. Now the next one is fiscal year 2006. And I'm just picking points in time and showing that it's not, I'm not doing every other year or anything like that. This is just the next point I'm looking at. And this shows the salaries that were in effect fiscal year 2006, which was July of 2005. And here, Pennsylvania had fallen further behind the other departments, 6% behind in terms of the 2020-year average, and 3.8% behind in terms of the 25-year average, and 5th overall. So there's been a decline over that period, which is consistent with what happened during that time period. And it made a difference compared to the other states.
And again, page 7 here is a graphical representation of the same exhibit.
Yes. So, and you can see on this the Pennsylvania compared to the median, and Pennsylvania is a little bit lower than average.
So moving forward with our contracts, not only are we falling behind the median, but we're telling these folks to my left here, they're absolutely going to have to put in 25 or more years if they want to put away the same amount of money as people doing their same jobs in other states.
Yeah, they wouldn't get to the other states in this career, under this contract. Okay, now moving to the current year. This is fiscal year 2011 that began July of 2010. And these are the contracts that are in place right now for all of these states. In Massachusetts and New York, you'll see our 2008 numbers there. That's what's current. eventually will be changed.
Not anytime soon.
Well, New York is in arbitration, and they'll be done in the summer
I
sometime.
said not anytime soon, even after it issues. You know what New York is going through. You testify.
Well, New York has budgeted for their correctional officers for 3 and 4% wage increases in 2 years. That's what's in their budget. So that's not to say that's what the arbitrators have given, but that's what the state has set aside for the arbitration award.
And Mass is going to do nothing.
Massachusetts is bargaining. Massachusetts, though, is already the second highest one, so that wouldn't factor into the median in this case. It would be New York and Illinois. And New York, if New York gets an increase, then the median will go up. And New York, as I say, they budgeted for it, so we'll see.
As the employee goes through their career and their compensation increases, Pennsylvania, on their latest chart, comes up to number 2, 24, 25 years.
At the very end of the career, they would be number 2, yes.
And you talk about career earnings. You're ignoring pension, I assume that's career earnings.
I'm talking about the salary earned during the
Right.
career.
But pensions are based upon your highest year, your average 3, it varies state to state. Our folks here will continue to draw more in pension than will the correctional officers from the other states, except New Jersey.
If they had the same pension formula, and I don't know that they do. I haven't looked at what
Well-
pension formulas are for the other states.
Pennsylvania's is one of the most generous because it's your highest year, not an average of 3 or 5.
What?
Um,
No, her friend, no.
But
That's what we were talking about before, because it's based on high average salary, but your copay is based on.
We can talk more about that.
But that aside, the pension formula is what would be important, not just the salary on which it's based, but what the formula is, what provides per year of service. And I haven't looked at those. I don't know the answer to that. Okay, so that's that page. Then the next page is a graph again of the 20 and 25-year average salaries. And page 10, I've put together the information from the 3 years that I looked at in 2004, 6, and 11. And the darkest bar is 2004, the medium colored one is 2006, and the lightest one is 2011. So you can see what's happened over this time period and compare Pennsylvania to the median and to each of the individual states. And the next page, this is for 2011, and this shows the pay at
What
each.
page?
I'm sorry, 11. It's the bar or a line graph now. This shows the pay at each year of service for each of the other departments, so you can track along where Pennsylvania is compared to all the others at any point in the career. And it's obviously consistent with what's on the tables. Pennsylvania is that sort of pinkish colored line. And you can see up to about year 10, they're well below most everybody else. That is the step progression that the correctional officers have here doesn't provide them nearly as much as it does in the other departments. And then once it hits the peak at around year 10, it increases gradually over the rest of the career to end up just slightly over the median, but number 2. Yeah.
And it doesn't increase very much at all. It kind of chugs along.
It's 1% a year.